Theorists, what's poppin'? Today's cultural critique centers around Mr. 40 Acres himself, Spike Lee. Innovative, provocative, brilliant are just a handful of words that describe the cinematic savant. If you've run through his filmography though, you know that's only half of the story. This entry only covers his films before the year 2000. Don't worry, the rest is on the way. If you're new, go ahead and spar with that subscribe button. Show the vid some love if you want more content just like this, and don't be afraid to drop your thoughts in them comments. With that out the way, let's get to it. Number 12, She's Gotta Have It. Starting this one off with a bang, we know this is a fan favorite for many. It would even be adapted into its own 2017 Netflix series. But at the time of production, it's clear to see Spike was working with next to nothing. At times, the constraints highlight Lee's creativity and resourcefulness, particularly surrounding the film's cinematography and locations. But the plot, casting, and performances? We'll chalk that up to a lack of funding. Originally receiving an X rating, Spike had to edit out some of the sex scenes just to secure an R rating. It's this aspect of Lee's storytelling that we find most baffling. At times, it feels like we're subject to gratuitous sex that serves his own ends rather than artistic expression that breathes life into the human experience. When applied judiciously, it's one of the most tactful weapons. Here, it just feels like a man's vision of what woman's empowerment could be. Truthfully, the film could have climbed a couple of more spots in the ranking if it hadn't ended the way it did. Disservice to the characters, unnecessary for the story. Even Spike discussed his regrets around it in a 2014 interview with the Huffington Post. While it sits at the bottom of our rankings, that doesn't mean it's all lowlights. That interpretive dance scene? Like a 50-piece in the garden. Ultimately, it speaks to Spike's larger-than-life body of work. The worst he has to offer was still impactful more than 3 decades later. Number 11, He Got Game. If you've seen a shortcoming in one of Spike Lee movies, then you've seen them all. The casting in He Got Game is a mixed bag. You have the greatest actor of all time in Denzel Washington, and then you have Ray Allen, one of the greatest three-point shooters in NBA history, who simultaneously feels out of place every time he's on screen. While most of the performances haven't grown on us since our Denzel rankings, make sure y'all tap into that if you weren't familiar, we did get a newfound appreciation for Zelda Harris, aka Mary Shuttlesworth. Let's just say Crooklyn is criminally underrated, more on that later. Another fault we've continually found with Spike's films, inconsistent and at times incoherent storytelling. While we might view those as the weakest pillars supporting a 5-decade-long empire, it should be noted that He Got Game saw Spike coming back to the writer's room. After outsourcing the work for Girl 6 and Get on the Bus, Lee must have seen the film's subpar reviews as evidence that only his writing can do his films justice, causing him to return for his 11th feature. The film is in limbo. Denzel refuses to ever give less than 110% on screen, yet the plot and most of the supporting cast would lead you to believe this was a Tyler Perry / ESPN joint project. If you got nothing from the film on an individual level, viewing it as part of his collective filmography will give you an appreciation for the fact that once you're cast in a Spike Lee movie, you have a job for life. Number 10, Get on the Bus. Off the rip, can we give our flowers to composer Terrence Blanchard? Starting the movie off with a Michael Jackson song specifically created for the film? That's iconic and more than enough to land this film above its previously mentioned competition. Are there any Snowfall fans in attendance? You'll notice a fresh-faced DeAndre Bonds, aka Scully, playing the role of Junior. We didn't even know our guy was black until spotting him in this film. That goes to show how important casting can be, and how detrimental typecasting often is. Truth be told, we love the message behind the film. For fans out there who weren't able to attend the Million Man March in person, we can't imagine a more immersive and engaging experience to substitute for it. But there really isn't too much going on with this film outside of that. The majority of its dialogue amongst a politically divided constituency, with most of the film shot on the bus that gets them to DC. There are some heartfelt moments sprinkled throughout, as well as an iconic assembly of characters. Bernie Mac, who should have been given more lines, Ossie Davis, Charles Dutton, Paula Parker, and Hill Harper all make appearances throughout the film. Despite the writer's best attempts, there isn't much conflict in the film, nor is there a lot of comic relief. There was an intentional effort to show the eclectic scope of black male thought, which we argue would have been received better with a more balanced incorporation of genres. Ultimately, we felt the soundtrack was the movie's strongest selling point. It might not be the first flick you throw on after getting off from work, but very few films in Lee's catalog will feel as impactful and historically relevant. Number 9, Summer of Sam. It's very rare that you see an artist's creativity shift into the mainstream so visibly as Summer of Sam. It's even more rare to find that shift contrasted with the backdrop of a sadistic, sex-driven killing spree. We alluded to it in previous film rankings, but the gritty/dystopian impact of Seven might not ever be fully understood. Even if the casting doesn't mirror a Morgan Freeman-Brad Pitt duo, the film's fingerprints are all over Spike's crime thriller. Spike's relationship with sex and cinema has always been a trademark ingredient to his films, even with the based on a true story nature of the plot. Never has it been so wanton and unnerving. If you're unfamiliar with this game by this point, just know that any film brandishing Adrien Brody among its cast is getting one of the most dedicated actors in Hollywood. Still, Brody wasn't the most captivating star on screen. John Leguizamo was so hungry for the role, his performance rewrote the script. Initially, Richie, played by Brody, was the lead character. Leguizamo instead would improv his way straight to top billing, including the coffee pour scene and the cemetery argument. If you know, you know. While Adrien might not have improvised his way throughout the film, he left just as much blood, sweat, and tears as anyone on that set. Literally, the climactic fight scene in the end resulted in Brody breaking his nose, and he never broke character. The project is the furthest you can get from Lee's comfort zone in his whole filmography, which comes with pros and cons. Pro, nobody reps New York like Spike Lee. That even shows in the way he captures the city. Con, if you're trying to tell a delicate yet controversial story, Spike has as much finesse as Shaq at the free throw line. Number 8, Girl 6. We've had to dust off DVDs, rent films on Prime, and scroll through every stream to find movies before, but we've never come across a film that puts us through the hoops Girl 6 did. Figured, if Spike went so far out of his way to keep us from tracking this one down, there must be a reason. High key, the sleeper pick of his filmography. Casting was on point while also being wildly unpredictable. Lee having Quentin Tarantino sub in for himself low-key feels like blackface. No, just me? Jennifer Lewis doesn't get the credit she deserves, seeming to act as the glue in every role she embodies. Isaiah Washington played his role to perfection, and he's credited as shoplifter. But Teresa Randall breathes life into a script that could have easily fell flat. This is her first and biggest of 3 appearances on this list. Prince gives the movie a deceptively alluring backdrop, but if you're open to the experience, Girl 6 has something for you. If anybody watching has a DVD copy, you should get that one signed. Going to be very valuable one day. Number 7, Jungle Fever. Bear with me, it's a lot of moving parts with this film. For starters, Spike is clearly working with big money by this point in his career. These 3 words opening the film is enough to bring tears to your eyes. Stevie exited his prime, but still a force to be reckoned with. The casting director for The Sopranos clearly tapped in with this one. Frank Vincent, Michael Imperioli, and Annabella Shore would all fill substantial roles in the series. But wait, there's more. This would be the film debuts for Queen Latifah and Halle Berry. Ironically, Halle being strung out was both the most impressive and the most unbelievable part of the film. Keep in mind, Berry plays opposite of Sam Jackson, who was really 2 weeks out of rehab. To this day, we'd argue Berry has never shined brighter than she did in this role. But remember, the laws of universal reciprocity must be upheld. So to balance out an award-worthy showcase from Berry, Spike had to roll out arguably the most muddled and convoluted script of his career. Context is crucial here. Let Spike's father Bill Lee tell it, Jungle Fever is a product of Spike's anger at the fact that his father married a white woman shortly after the death of his mother Jacqueline. We get that the 90s were a different environment in regards to interracial love stories, but the racial tension of a black man cheating on his racially ambiguous, visibly passing wife with a white woman of similar ethnic makeup isn't as shocking as the plot and characters would lead you to believe. There's no build-up, no chemistry being established, no marital fallout, just a black man blowing up his family. Copy and paste this framework into a more comprehensive script and you've got a gripping love story. You get Mississippi Masala. Number 6, Clockers. As is the case with most of the world's greatest, many actors and actresses can trace their starting point to the set of a Spike Lee joint. Mekhi Phifer can attest to it. This project was initially in the hands of Martin Scorsese with Robert De Niro attached as the film's lead. Instead, Scorsese opted for Casino and took De Niro with him. Martin asked Spike if he wanted to direct the film. With the change in direction came a shift in focus, with Strike, Mekhi Phifer, now being the primary character, and the rest was history. We're quick to play 6 degrees of separation, but what about 3 characters of consolidation? During the mid-90s to the early 2000s, gangster media was at an all-time high. The peak of that genre is only possible thanks to this film. Your favorite show, The Wire? We don't get Weebay without Hassan's theatrical debut as Skills. What about Paid in Full? There's no money-making Mitch without Strike. Even Michael Imperioli plays the role of JoJo, better known as Christopher Moltisanti from The Sopranos. We know it's not a lot of channels that would be dedicated to keeping track of obscure stats like this, but Michael would make appearances in 5 Spike joints. We know the roles aren't as major, but that's more collabs than Spike and Denzel. It's also kind of funny he played another character named JoJo in Bad Boys the same year as Clockers came out, but I digress. There aren't really any criticisms to levy with the film. Everybody plays their role to perfection, with heavyweights like Delroy Lindo and Keith David sharing the screen. You know that holds a different kind of weight. The film is riveting from start to finish with a masterfully thought out reveal. It's clear by this point that Spike has mastered the fundamentals behind the camera. However, after we learn who Spike wanted to replace De Niro with, let's just say Harvey Keitel felt like a consolation pick, respectfully. Oh, and lead cast Sticky Fingers and Fredro Starr in here too. Shout out to Onyx. We've got a list ranking their albums coming very soon. Quick word before we break into this top 5. You know we appreciate every like, comment, subscription, and channel recommendation, so we always want to spread the love. We got some dope ass merch on our website and even doper content over on our Patreon. Tap in and get right, the fall is coming. Alright, let's get back to it. You don't just listen to music, it shapes you. That vibe, that energy, that voice. Our Raised Me merch, it's all about honoring the albums that built the culture that built you. 8 legendary albums on every piece. A nod to the past, a flex for the future. Ready to rep your roots? Cop now at shop.culturalisttheory.com. Number 5, Mo Better Blues. Pulling off a Herculean feat just by casting the leads, Robbie Reed secured not just the best that Black Hollywood had to offer, she got 2 of the best actors in the world at the start of their peaks. Denzel playing Bleak and Wesley stepping into the role of Shadow would be a monumental undertaking that even audiences weren't fully prepared for. The two play off each other brilliantly, giving Spike's love of jazz a 4-dimensional gravity that could only be sustained under these conditions. In our 90s Denzel rankings, we mentioned that Halle Berry was initially considered for the role of Clark Betancourt, but ultimately passed on it due to the film's sex scenes. Imagine our surprise in finding her being cast as Vivian, a strung-out substance abuser in Jungle Fever. Put a different way, instead of her role being a love interest opposite Denzel, she would be strung out opposite Sam Jackson. Then a decade later, she would accept a role that called for a sex scene with Billy Bob Thornton and win an Oscar for it. I'm not usually one to buy into hypotheticals, but if we can assume Barry brings even half of what we saw on screen for Jungle Fever or Monsters Ball, how do y'all think the film and the star's subsequent trajectories would have shifted? And let us know down in the comments. Number 4, School Daze. If there were any film that highlighted Spike's immeasurable impact on pop culture, it would be School Daze. Released smack in the middle of A Different World's first season, Spike would argue that he paved the way for the show's success. After watching School Daze, it's hard to argue. Daryl Bell, Jasmine Guy, and Kadeem Hardison would all star on the show. Tisha Campbell notched a couple of episodes under her belt, and even Roger Guenveur Smith appeared in 5 episodes as African-American history professor Howard Randolph. Through the film's focus on frat culture and emphasis on academics, it's easy to see Spike's impact on everything from Drumline to Stomp the Yard, minus the choreography and Megan Good. Checking out our CT report card, we would give School Daze high marks in the writing, casting, and acting department. Spike just didn't know when to yell cut. The film did not need to be 2 hours. Heavy-handed edits aside, the movie is flooded with iconic scenes, including the Straight and Nappy musical piece, Eric Reed's First in My Family dialogue, and the Y'all Are Not Niggas scene with Sam Jackson. Fun fact, the last word spoken in the film, Wake Up, would be the first word spoken in Do the Right Thing, which brings us to our number 3. Number 3, Do the Right Thing. I get it, this isn't just a hot take, it's scorching. After all, Do the Right Thing is like the quintessential Spike Lee film. It earned him his first 2 Oscar nominations, currently has the highest rating of any of his films on IMDb, and had a surprisingly strong return on investment at the box office. Notching 3rd place isn't a diss to the film, rather an overdue acknowledgement of what we placed above it. Still, there were a lot of historical firsts that could easily have earned this film a 2nd place finish. We mentioned tracing your roots back to a Spike Lee set. Well, Do the Right Thing would be the theatrical debut of one of Hollywood's brightest stars, Martin Lawrence. Despite appearing in some of the most highly acclaimed films in history, including The Godfather Part 2, Once Upon a Time in America, and Leon the Professional, This would be Danny Aiello's only Oscar-nominated performance. The film would also kickstart a very brief yet very impactful run of films with Robin Harris, including Harlem Nights, House Party, and Bebe's Kids. Do the Right Thing is equal parts dissertation-level social commentary and time capsule quality cinema. If you ranked it ahead of our runner-up, we would understand. But after going through his filmography, this one feels strangely co-opted, if that makes sense. Oh, and Spike ruined the perfect ending with Smiley putting up that pic of Martin and Malcolm. Number 2, Crooklyn. I know I just said swapping this for Do the Right Thing would be an acceptable substitution, but I lied. This is easily Lee's most underrated project, and it's not even close. We have it on good authority that this is Spike's only film to be certified hood classic. The story is deliberate and engaging. We get comedy, drama, experimentation, and suspense. A coming-of-age story told from a little girl's perspective? Brilliant, refreshing, semi-autobiographical. You heard me right. Many of the elements of the story were pulled from Spike's own experiences, a driving force behind his best writing. Zelda Harris, aka Troy, holds it down in a way that truly makes us question why her career never took that stratospheric leap. Delroy Lindo and Alfre Woodard are magic, invoking joy, anger, and nostalgia every time they share the screen. Even the angle shift when Troy goes to the country to see her cousin is unforgettable. Aunt Song was wildin', which helps to explain his poignant stand against colorism in films like School Daze and Jungle Fever. Please don't take our word for it. The way Lee recreates the 70s, dysfunctional family and all, is truly special. Kinda like that merch on our website. Number 1, Malcolm X. Biopics are one of the trickiest genres in the industry to master. You're covering the story of a larger-than-life figure, somebody the audience most likely feels they know very well. What can you tell us that we don't already know? In this case, nothing. By adhering faithfully to the source material at hand, Spike played one of the most divinely crafted winning hands we've ever seen. Needless to say, Denzel was out of his body for this performance. Delroy Lindo was literally robbed at gunpoint for a supporting nomination. While we still got the on-screen excellence we've come to expect from greats like Angela Bassett, Albert Hall, and Al Freeman Jr., if we're being honest, the only wild card in the film had to contend with Spike inserting himself in the starting lineup. We've stated, in no ambiguous terms, that Spike often plays that gold-link DJ Khaled role, aka being the worst part of their own projects. Safe to say, even Spike could sense the gravity of the story and knew to tone it down accordingly. Angela stepping into the role of Tina Turner, Jamie transforming into Ray Charles, Will Smith embodying what it means to be Muhammad Ali. These are some of the greatest portrayals we've ever seen on screen, and while there were iconic story-to-screen biopics before '92, Lee's epic 3.5-hour renaissance of reinvention redefined what it meant to capture someone's story on the big screen. Yo, this isn't goodbye. There is more Spike to be reviewed, so it's more like a see you later. If this content spoke to your soul, make sure you show that like button some love, tap in with the videos that we got up on the screen, and keep your eyes peeled. We getting them 40 acres together right now. Not sure about the mule. It's your man CJ for CT. Till the next time.